find it interesting that in our day when we have all types of entertainment options, streaming services, video games, books, movies continue to be important, especially at this time of the year. This week we saw the nominations for the Oscars and debated who should have gotten a nomination, who didn't get a nomination. We go online and look for ratings for movies to decide if it's worth going to. And another option, which many other forms of entertainment don't have, is that revenues are tracked. Did a movie make money? Is it bombing? Is it doing better than expected? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, today I want to talk about 5 movies that have had an impact on me. They're not necessarily my 5 favorite movies or the best movies I've ever seen, but they've all had an impact on me. I want to describe what I've seen in those movies that has had an impact on me. The first 2 movies I'm going to talk about, I only look at certain scenes right now. In the last 3 movies, I tend to look at the entire movie. So we'll start with the first movie that I like watching pieces of, It's a Wonderful Life. And I tend to watch this at about the last hour, about the time when Jimmy Stewart has decided to jump off the bridge and his guardian angel shows up to help him and then talk to him about what life would be like without him. And I have a very special, this has a very special place in my heart because the angel Clarence also shares the first name with my father. And I felt kind of good this year because my daughter-in-law, Dana, who is really into Christmas, had never seen It's a Wonderful Life. So we got to introduce her to the last hour, especially the whole alternate universe idea and what life would be like without Jimmy Stewart. So I felt pretty good about that. But again, the last hour is where I tend to pick this up. The other movie that I tend to watch scenes from is Lord of the Rings, because right now it's just too long to watch the entire movie. So there are certain scenes that if I come across it, I'll sit through and watch it. This first scene with Gandalf, my middle son, has always called this wizard trash talking. You shall not pass. So I really enjoy that scene. I enjoy the speeches. But one of the scenes that really that echoes with me is in the third movie, when they are requesting help and they go through lighting these bonfires from peak to peak to peak throughout New Zealand. And they go through, and I think it's just an amazing scene how they could get all those bonfires on all those mountains and coordinate that. And I've always thought that was a great scene, a great skill in movie making. So 3 movies that I tend to watch, will sit through as much as I can, include Casablanca. When I was recovering from hip surgery in 2015, I thought, this will be a great time. I can sit through and go through all these movie channels that I'm paying for from Charter. And start picking up movies I haven't seen before. Well, I was mostly disappointed in the quality of movies that I was seeing except for Turner Classic Movies. But one movie that really did have an impact on me is Casablanca. Just the phrasing that you hear out of that movie. Play it again, Sam. Round up the usual suspects. And just watching through this whole scene as they go through that. And as I watched this, I realized that this movie answered a question that I've been asking for a long time. And I know many people in this room have been asking for a long time. And I finally have an answer to that question. You could do anything at Rick's Cafe Americano. You could do anything. You could get a drink. You could gamble. You could hear music. You could meet spies and old flames show up. You could do just about anything at Rick's. And I thought, this is what Rochester needs right now. But again, especially the scene where they sing the French national anthem, that is an amazing scene as they go through that, where the Germans are singing their anthem and then they start with the French anthem. I think that's an amazing scene. Again, a well-made movie. In a different category is the movie Hoosiers. Sports movie, small town Indiana, mid-1950s. They single-class high school basketball tournament. Gene Hackman comes in as a high school coach, takes 8 players, and they make a run to the state title. One of the reasons this echoes with me is that several years ago there was a management development class that we took at IBM, and the teacher actually walked through this movie during the class and would show scenes. We'd talk through what it meant as coaching, what it meant as managing, and walked through that entire movie and tried to learn from what Gene Hackman was doing, what Dennis Hopper was doing, what they were teaching the students, what they were teaching the coaches, and what they were trying to teach everybody in that movie. So it has an impact because I really respected the teacher who ran that, Al Atkins. Plus, I came from a small town in South Dakota, so it has some echoes about, small town versus big town. It has some echoes for me. The most recent movie on my list is Interstellar from 5 years ago. And part of the engineer in me has really liked this shot because as they were preparing the movie, they hired a number of physicists and said they wanted to go through and run all the equations for what a black hole should look like. A lot of computer time, a lot of simulations. And this is what the best of our understanding of equations of black holes today, this is what a black hole should look like. I thought, my inner geek is a little happy. So I thought, but I've liked this, and I saw it a couple of times in the theaters. One of the reasons I like this is that it continues a trend. 50 years ago, 2001: A Space Odyssey came out, and typically science fiction movies after that have tended to go in two different camps. One camp said, I'm going to do something completely different than 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'm not going to talk about big themes. I'm not going to talk about mysticism. I'm going to talk about more down to earth or down to space issues. And that's where Star Wars, I think, follows in that track. It's not trying to dive into big, deep issues about space, about science fiction, about our future. And one of the things that I do like about Interstellar is that it is meant to go in that trend of 2001, dealing in big issues about space, about our future. So I like that about Interstellar, is that it's trying to follow in that footsteps. You either make the anti-2001, or you try to continue and try to top it. What are the common themes in these movies for me? And there were two that came out. One is that I can associate a lot of themes to music during points in the movies. The Christmas hymns in It's a Wonderful Life. The French national anthem in Casablanca, the scores that were written for Lord of the Rings and for Hoosiers and for Interstellar. Another theme for me is ambition. Obviously, Lord of the Rings and Interstellar are big movies, big themes, big budgets, trying to get some big ideas out there. The other movies obviously were made with much smaller budgets, but It's a Wonderful Life and Casablanca and Hoosiers were focused on quality, what they were trying to get across, the quality of the actors, quality of the script, quality of the acting. So those are two themes that resonated with me, the music and the ambition. So what do I want to start checking out next? Maybe there's time this weekend to sit through Lawrence of Arabia, getting snowed in. Maybe. And maybe 1917 is another movie that has gotten, maybe it's also one of these big movie themes. But I ask you, what's on your list of favorite movies? What movies have had impacts on you? And why has that happened? Why did those movies resonate with you? So I've thought about this, and I hope I learned a little bit more about myself, and I hope I shared that with you today about what these movies have meant to me. And yes, movies still matter. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.